Hey everyone, Nigel here with you. Welcome back to the channel. Part 4B now of this beautiful Airscale cockpit upgrade. Start by saying, I'm sorry I'm dragging this out, but a lot of people like to see a lot of detail in these videos. If you don't want to see all the detail, just feel free to just fast forward and you know, just pick up on the bits you actually want to see. But for those out there that haven't ever used one of these and a little bit nervous about aftermarket, it's good to go into the detail and show them how to do it, because it is a lot more involved than using a photo etch set from Edward, say, you know, where you've got all the stuff is all pre-colored and you just laminating two pieces like you've seen me do. This is actually painting, decaling, and you know, and you've got all these holes in here where you can put all the levers and everything, all the switches and everything, which we're going to be doing. So right, when I left you last time, we got to the point where we put this decal on here. I've since removed the decal from the left hand side and added this photo etch panel onto the left side here, and then I've put that decal on and let that go off, ready so we can actually do the main instrument. Now if you remember, I used this part of the instrument while it was still on the fret to cut out my clear acetate, which is going to be our lenses. Now as you can see, the acetate, if I lay that on there, the acetate is actually smaller. What I've done, I've trimmed about half a millimetre or about a millimetre off of this side and about a millimetre off of this side, so that we actually have an edge around the instrument panel but doesn't have acetate on it. Okay, so that's what that's done for. So we've got to make sure we've got the acetate covering all the gauges, but we've now got an edge where we can put super glue and it will just sit there, and it will actually glue these parts together. So what I'm going to do first of all is very carefully remove some of the decal from the edge of this panel, and I'm going to just use a knife and I just want to expose a slither around the edge. It doesn't need to be loads, it just needs to be something so we're not just gluing that front fascia. We don't just want to glue it to the decal. We want some metal contact area there. So there we go. So we've got that stripped back now. Okay, so that's that. Right, what you also could do is come in with a sanding stick and just like so, just sand away like that, just to expose an edge. All right, so what I'm going to do now, make sure that's nice and clean. I'm going to get a cotton bud and just go over it. I've got to be careful not to lose that piece there. In fact, that piece there, I've put the decal on. That's that little switch panel that sits just in front of the instrument panel, sort of like here. Sits just in front of it. So I'm going to put this in my cockpit parts bag. Sorry guys, otherwise I know I'm going to lose it. I've already lost it once. There we go. Right, so that can go away there. So I'm going to get this cotton bud and just clean off. This is a drop of super glue here, which is about 2 or 3 days old. It's dead dry, so we're not worried about that. I'm just going to wipe that off and make sure there's no nasties on there, and then we can get our clear acetate. Oops. And just lay this over. As I mentioned before, if you don't want to use the acetate, you could give that a coat of gloss varnish or whatever. But I think this is far superior. You'll see me do it in other models. I'll add a drop of gloss varnish onto the instrument panel to get the glass look. But actually it ends up being either concave or convex, and it never looks quite right. So this is actually dead flat, just like the glass. And this is my preferred method of doing this. And I must say I do love these Airscale sets, and you've seen me make a couple of mistakes with this one, so you've seen me do things wrong, and I've told you where I've gone wrong, and you don't need to make those same mistakes. Right, so I'm going to grab a drop of not the extra thin, grab a drop of super glue. I'm just going to put a dab on here just to sort of make sure it stays in place. So I'm going to use the black, not the black thin, I'm going to use the ordinary black because it's slightly thicker. I'm just going to put a drop of this on my Pringles lid here. There we go. And as I say, that's slightly thicker, so it won't be so tempted to capillary under. and I'm going to just get a drop of this and I'm going to put it down here where nowhere near the gauges, so if it does move it doesn't matter. I'm just going to put that there, and I want that to stay there just to sort of keep it in position. Okay, so that's gone like that. You can see that capillary underneath on there, so that's absolutely fine. And then I'm going to come along with a cotton bud and just remove it from the edge there. Now what's happening now, it's moved, the capillary action has actually pulled it down. So we can see there, I'm just going to push that up. And that will hold that in place. Okay. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm just trying to demonstrate that we need to leave an area around the edge where we can put glue. Okay, so there you go. So that's now held in place. Now what we can do is get our instrument panel, and we can make sure that our edges are free of paint. We don't just want to glue paint to paint, we want to glue metal to metal. Okay, so that's that like that, and then I can put this on here. Just get that in position. Just check it's all going to line up. Yeah, everything's lining up lovely. So I think what I'll do now is take this off of here. Take that blue tack off the back, because I want to be able to clamp it. I don't want to bend it either. Come on, off. That's stuck like the proverbial to a blanket. Right. Okay, so that acetate is going to stay in place now. So I can put this on here. Get everything lined up. Basically, if you line up, these sets are perfectly sized. So if you line up these edges here, everything underneath it will line up, as long as the decal's positioned correctly as well. So you can see all this with getting positions and everything, it's critical. So I can put a clamp on there, and that will just hold it for me. And I can see I'm a little bit over to one side. It's better to get the gauges lined up than have this edge all perfectly lined up. You want it to look right on the gauges. It doesn't matter if the edge is slightly overlapping, that doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, for how deep this sits in the cockpit, you're not going to see most of it anyway. So there we are. So that's now together like that. Now I can hold that and bring this peg closer up to the edge. And then what I can do is grab a drop of the black glue and just put a drop on there. Not too much, because otherwise it will capillary like mad. I'm just going to put a drop around the edge, and what I'm doing is, this is probably going to remove paint now. Just make sure we've got no glue remaining on the edge. Choose one of these. Okay, I'm just going to do this in stages, and you can see how the crack has reappeared, if you like. That's because the glue has sort of gone down in a bit. I'm just going to leave that like that and leave that to dry for a minute, and then I'll do the rest off camera. What I'm doing, if I can just grab a piece of paper, what I'm doing is, if you can imagine, it's the wrong pencil. Where's the right pencil? There it is. Right. If you can imagine looking end on like this, looking at end on, you've got the instrument panel on the back, okay, and then you've got the decal on there. And then you've got this instrument panel here. That's the front piece. So that's the front piece there. That's the rear piece there. And then in between, we have a piece of acetate. And I've cut it slightly smaller. And the reason I've done that is so we can get glue build up in here and in here. So we're gluing metal to metal and sandwiching the acetate in, because super glue doesn't glue very well to acetate. So that's why I'm doing it this way. Okay, I don't want to use white glue because I don't want it all to ping apart, because if it does, then we've had it. So what I'm doing is building up there, and what I'll do eventually is build that up like that and then sand it flat again. So what we'll end up with is a really nice square laminate with all our pieces inside, and it will just look like one instrument panel. It doesn't matter because you can't see the edge on this one, but when you're doing something like on a Spitfire where you've got that panel in the middle, which is the separate piece, I can't remember what it's called now, it's got like 6 instruments in it, hasn't it, or 5 or whatever. When you can see the edge of that, you want it to be nice, and then you can do is just go around with a brush and just paint it in black, and it will look completely seamless, and that's the kind of look you're going for. So what I'm going to do is do the same all the way around the rest as I've done here, just moving the clamp, glue it, clamp it, glue it, clamp it, all the way around, and then I'll come back. Obviously I can't go down here, because if I go down there I'll make a mess with the glue. So I'll go all the way around the edge, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's all dried. And I'm also going to show you some options for your switches as well, because we've got this instrument panel here, and I've actually gone through now and opened up all those holes with the drill. So I'll show you some options we've got for the switches. So I'll be back in a minute. Right, so that's all dry now. That's been about an hour, and as you can see, what I've done is gone bit by bit, moved the way around with the clamps and just glued it all together. So you can see now I've gone around and with a sander and just quickly just run over the edges, just to clean the edges up, just to make sure everything's nice and square. We don't want any blobs sticking out. Although with this instrument panel it's not an issue, because all of this here is in free air. But something like you know, like a Spitfire or something like that, where you might want to be careful that you don't have any lumps and bumps, because it might affect the fit if it's going into the, you know, if the instrument panel actually goes into the fuselage. But this one actually sits on a floor supported mount, so it's not sort of going in the fuselage anywhere. And I'm sure it's not that close that it's going to cause any issues with any fit or anything. But so what I'm doing is just sanding this away now, just to get the edges nicely cleaned up. And there we are. So now what we've got is this sandwich, and as I said, we've got the glue all built up, and then we've sanded it back nice and square. So we've got glue now. We know we've got a solid lump of super glue holding metal to metal, and the acetate is just sat in between, rather than having the acetate being the sort of ham in the middle of the sandwich, if you like. So now we've got a piece of ham which is smaller than the bread. We've pulled the bread together. So there we go. Right. I guess we've made like a toasted cheese sandwich, haven't we? One of those little things that crimps the edges. I haven't got one of them. Quite nice, wouldn't it? So that's all done. So now we can just come along here and gently give this a bit of a rough up. Try and remove some of that paint so we're not gluing onto the paint. And then we can take some of our glue. Oh, the other thing you need to do here is drill out this acetate. When it comes to drilling stuff like this, try and avoid these type of drills. They've got a very steep helix on them, and they tend to sort of cut their way through rather than drilling their way through. They just sort of wind their way through. So I'm going to start with a 0.5. I think that's the right size. Use the back end of the drill. Okay, let's try and go a bit bigger. And I'm going to drill this out before I fit it to the fuselage. I was going to say fuselage then. Let's go for 0.6. Because I don't want any plastic to get its way in between the two panels. So, and I'm going to drill it out from the back. The reason I'm doing this beforehand is the hole on the front is bigger than the hole in the back. And what we don't want to do is drill this and then have plastic between the photo etch and the actual material. So just drilling this, I'm not pushing hard at all, I'm just drilling very gently. Because acetate is quite hard. There we go, it's gone through. It didn't puncture my finger, but I felt it go through. Okay, so that way we've done that and we don't have any slivers of plastic. I'm going to try and go slightly bigger. 6.5. I'll do this on camera and then you'll know what size to use. Yeah, that feels about right, 6.5. 6.5 is the size. So now we won't have any plastic jammed anywhere in between. So that's all done. So now that can get glued onto our instrument panel. And then we will have a completed instrument panel. And what we'll do is let that dry. And then once that's dry, we can glue through, because we've got these holes in here. You see we've got those holes in there that I've gone through. See my finger behind and disappearing. So all those holes there are done. All these holes here are done. And with these here we need to drill through into the plastic. But we're going to let the super glue get nice and hard first. So what I'm going to do here is get a drop of this black and put it in the middle. Just spread it around a bit. Spread it all over. Just like that. And then we can put this on. Get it roughly in position. Okay, just like so. It doesn't actually butt up to those panels at the bottom. There is a slight gap. If you get the top lined up, what we can do is just get a peg on here, like so. In fact, what we'll do, we'll peg it from underneath. The glue is starting to cure. What I want to do is just get it level with all the plastic all the way around, and we're there. And if you look at the real thing, there is that you can actually see some green between the panel, the upper panel and the lower panels. So that's in place. We can get that clamped. We'll just clamp that end and get another one clamped here, and that will hold that in place. And we want to leave that for a good hour or so to let it dry before we start playing with it. Now, as far as the switches go, this here, let's just say we could get some 0.4, 0.5, whatever. It's just some nickel steel wire or nickel silver rod. And what you can do is, imagine this drill is a piece of rod. We'll have that going through. I've got one of these here. That'll go through there. Is that unopened? No. I've got to find a hole that's actually drilled through, because we've got all this plastic in the back all blocking everything off. There we go, that one's drilled through, I think. No, but it's really running into a wall behind it. So we'll go for this one here. There we go. So if you just had a piece of 0.4 wire, you could just have it, glue them into there, and you can see that on the front of there. You can see it sticking out. See the shiny bit sticking out there? You can just have that, put them all in, and then cut them all off to the same length, and they will look like your switches. But the trouble is, as you can see there, well, it's fallen out, but they become practically invisible. But if you look back at my Lancaster Airscale cockpit set build, I used wire and they just basically disappear. So I've got these and these toggle switches that I've talked about before, and we're going to use them. So I'm just going to take one of these off to see what it looks like. And in here you need to remember there's all different shapes and sizes. These are the 1/32 scale ones. We've also got 1/48. And we've also got all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So I'm just going to take one of these and cut it off. Use a short one. And I've lost that already. I don't know where it went. I didn't see where it went, but I don't really want to waste any more. So I'll see if I can find that in a second, and I'll come back. There it is. Okay, so I'm just going to wet my finger so I can pick it up, and then I'm going to grab my tweezers. I'm going to put it in the tweezers. Use these wide-ended tweezers whenever you can. It saves you, it reduces the risk of flicking the parts off. Okay, so now that, with it surrounding everything, is going to go into that hole. I use the same hole as I used before. So as you can see now, we have a proper little toggle switch, and you can actually see it whatever angle you look at it from. You can see it, whereas the piece of wire just disappeared because it had no body to it. So that is basically what we're going to do. Yeah, and that is one of the squared off ones, I think. But we can have a variation of the switches going down. We'll play them all silver first. But this model is very hungry for toggle switches, so it's probably going to use practically that whole set. I mean, there's what is there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's 7 there. So that's 12. That's 13. That's another 6 there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there. So that's 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25, 30. There's 33 in that panel alone. So you can see we're going to use a hell of a lot of those switches. So take that one out of there. Best try and save it if we can. I wonder if I could glue it back on, because I want it on the fret so I can paint it. What if I can glue that back on there? It's on there, but it's not standing up right. Right, so I'll see you back in a minute and we'll look at something else. And we're back. This is like, I don't know, 36, 48 hours later, I can't remember now. But this has taken a long time. And it's all down to me, I keep messing things up. So basically we've got the decals on, we've got the holes drilled, I've got the instrument panel glued onto there now, gone round with the super glue, painted it all black. So everything's all good. I masked off this panel here and then gave it a very light coat of RP23 flat varnish, so as you can see all the shine from the decals is gone now, and we've got a really nice looking panel. And when you look at it like that, you can see the detail on there from those decals and everything is absolutely amazing. There's a slight register issue with those red buttons, but the thing is, you're looking at an angle, it's down deep inside, and you're not going to see it. You're not going to notice that it's at a register. I may just go in with a dry brush and just put some just a bit of silver on there. In fact, I can have a look at that now. Where is my dry? Here it is. I'm just going to check it's not too bad. No, it's not too bad. So we can just go over it and very gently dry brush the panel, and that will pick up on any raised detail. As you can see, it's very, very dry, this brush. But it will just, as you can see, it's picking up the screw heads. And it will just pick up the edges and just give it a bit of a metallic look rather than being all bits of plastic and stuff. I mean, I know the actual panels themselves are metal, but straight away those buttons have come to life. There are buttons on here with lights in them. You can see the 2 rows across there with the red in them. There's one here. And what's happened with this dry brushing, it's just picked up on the raised edges and it's covered that bit of outer register. What we had was, there was a white circle here and the red in the middle was kind of up. But what I've done now is dry brushed it and it's kind of covered over where that white circle was up. So that's lovely. Right. So there we go. That's good. Okay. So now we're going to look at switches. Now you might decide to leave it at this. As I said to you before, you might decide to go and use wire for your switches. As I mentioned, go back and look at my Lancaster. Have a look at that. See what you think. It looked okay. You know, when you're close up looking through a magnifier straight in front of you, when you actually put in the model, you just lost them, you couldn't see them. So this time I've decided to use the Anyz toggle switches that I've talked about so many times before. And as you can see here, that looks really good actually. I do love these Airscale sets. They really, I mean, look at that. You could leave it like that and that's absolutely fine. But the detail on there, and you've got those glazed panels which are lovely and flat, as you can see. I mean, it's just bloody gorgeous, isn't it? Even if I say so myself. So I've got the missile switches here, which I'm not even sure are period correct, but I'm going to go with them anyway. I've got the 32nd scale ones and the 48th scale ones. You can see the size difference. And as you can see, they're painted red. That's LP21 Italian red. It's a nice rich red colour. And this is what Tom has said. You know, you paint them first and then cut them off and glue them on. Here we've got some switches. These are Dials and knobs 2, yeah, in 1/32 scale. And I'm just going to be using a couple of these here. You can see I've got on the drawing. You've got a couple of knobs going around. I'll talk about this drawing in a second. Something I have noticed that's a bit of an issue, and I don't know if maybe Tom could look at doing something about it. If I want to get those out of there, they're sort of nestled away in the middle. I don't know how I'm supposed to get in there and cut them out. Would it be better to have like a row of each rather than have, he's got 2 rows of each coming down, or 1 row of each, whatever. Would it be better to have them going that way so you could sort of cut them from the centre out? I don't know, maybe I should have sprayed down here so I could cut them from the centre out. Maybe that's something I'll have to do. But something we can look at. And then here we have our toggle switches. On the right is the 32nd scale, on the left is the 48th. As you can see, they're painted in LP70 polished aluminium, so they'll have a nice bright look on there. I want them to really stand out against the black. I would have done them with the Molotov chrome and had them really shiny. The trouble is this paint isn't very tough, so you know, when you're holding them in tweezers and putting them in, they probably would have scratched all the paint off. So again, what we've got to do is decide which ones we're going to use, because I'm not sure if you can see on there. It's easier to see on the packet actually. There are 5 different sizes. You've got like a sort of medium length one there, which has got a flat on it, and then you've got a really short one, a sort of next one up, next one up, next one up. So you've got 5 different designs, 4 different lengths of round ones and 1 square one. And you need to decide what you're going to do, because we have basically 40 of each. There's 2 rows of 20 of each one. Okay, so what I've done, I've sort of drawn the instrument panel here on a piece of paper, and I've got all the holes and sort of looked at what we're going to have. So I've got 4 missile covers going down there. There's 1 missile cover going there. We've got some knobs going in here and a knob going on there, and a couple of knobs up there. That's it. The rest is toggle switches. So it's 69 toggle switches in total. So I was saying we'll probably use the whole set. That was a bit of an overstatement. So there's 200 in there. So I've got to decide what I'm going to do. So, and to be honest, I still haven't decided. But what I'm going to do, I did actually get that one to glue back on. You can see there in that right hand corner there, I did get that one to glue back on so I could paint it. I've got to decide what we're going to use and how we're going to do it. What I'm going to do is basically mount this in a vise or something, so that I can, I don't know, I need to mount it as something so I can sort of come and take them away without having to be using both hands, because I want to hold it with tweezers and nip it off and then just go straight onto the model rather than pick it up and put it down and everything. So yeah, we can see all those holes in there now prominently because of the matte varnish, and I've got to decide where we go from here. So let me have a think about it and get myself set up. I'm going to use the ultra glue to stick them in. The trouble is with super glue, if you get them in and it's sort of halfway in and the glue takes, you won't be able to push it in. It'll snap off and then you'll have to drill it out, and because there's a bit in there, the drill's going to go off center. It's just going to be a nightmare. So I'm going to use ultra glue because it'll take a while to dry, and then once they're in, we can position them and get the row all straight and that if we've got them going all wonky. And the other thing to remember is if you're right-handed, like I am, we're going to start at the top left corner and work our way back. We don't want to be starting down here and having to work over. We'll start there and come back. So we'll go across and then down and across, 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 like that. And then we'll come to this panel here, and then we'll do this panel here. In fact, we'll probably do this one up here first. So I need to get this mounted on something if I can. So I'll see you in a second, and we'll go from there. Okay, just a thought before we start adding any switches or anything. I just want to show you how this looks if you go from the box, as it were. If you decide not to add any wire switches or any Anyz switches or anything, if you just use the Airscale cockpit set out of the box, this is what you're going to get. There's your instrument panel there, as I've shown you just now, and as you can see, it's lovely. I'll do a couple of photographs and put them at the end so you can see what it looks like, and then I'll do a couple of photographs with the switches in as well. And there's the seat. You've got that lovely metal seat, which is so much nicer than the plastic one. You know, it's much thinner, it looks a lot more realistic, and also I think it's more accurately sized. I think the the bottom of the seat on the HK seat is too long. They did the same with the Lancaster, didn't they? Got that one too long in the base. This just looks better in my opinion. So there we go. Ignore the levers and stuff on the side in case you're only just picking this up. They're additions from the Edward set, and then I've used the Edward levers and put white glue on the end of them to get the effect of the knobs. But basically, if you're using the Airscale set and the cockpit, the kit parts, that's what you're going to get. Okay, that's how it's going to look. And as I say, that's the kit, the Airscale set decals, and all I've done is just given them a flat coat, LP23. But there you are. And I think you'll agree that over the other two options we've looked at so far, that is lovely. Now obviously, if you want ease, speed, quickness, you're going to go for a 3D printed decal. You know, like Quinta Studios, Red Fox, one of those. The Edward one apparently is very nice. So that might be what you want to go for. But I'm really happy with this. I'm really happy. I do love the Airscale sets. They are a bit of work, but then that's why we do the hobby, because we enjoy it. And I think that just looks so much better than a 3D printed one because it's so sharp and so crisp. Very, very nice indeed. I think for the modern jets and stuff, I think probably the 3D printed is really good because you've got all the screens with all the buttons around them and everything, which, you know, to replicate that with paint and everything is very, very difficult. And, you know, to get the register with the decals and everything, it's very difficult. But I think for World War II stuff like this with gauges and that, I think the Airscale stuff is the way to go. Unfortunately, the range isn't that big, but there's enough in it to keep you interested, but it's not massive. I have asked Peter if he's going to be doing an additional set for the JK when it comes out, and I don't think he's going to do it, so that's a shame. It would have been nice to have some additional stuff to go in the nose. No doubt Edward will take care of that. There we go. So I'll get some photographs of that, and then we'll come back. I've got my reference photos here. I've got this is the Bible. This is the big book, Douglas A-20 by the Ultimate Look by William Wolfe, and you can see it's 500 odd. What is it? 519 pages. No, 500. Yeah, 519 pages. You can see we've got all these images in here of the cockpit, which are really handy. But you know, I think it's a restored aircraft. I'm not sure about all these red knobs and levers everywhere. I don't know. Maybe I'll just go with it. Don't know. I've decided not to have these square lumps for the pitch trim. Propeller controls. I've gone with the round lever knobs on that. But there we go. And as far as that is, as I said, what you'll get with the set, you also get this. You get this lot here, which is your throttle controls, which are really, really nice. I've added some thin brass strips between the levers, but other than that, and I've also drilled these out, and I'm going to put some of these bits in there. But other than that, if you have the kit part and you just use the photo etch, there's a photo etch piece there, there's a photo etch piece there, and it just really brings it all to life. So that's something else you get in the set. And then you also get this piece here, which goes up under there. You can see it there. Goes up underneath the cowling, the canopy. So you've got all that all soldered together, and then you've got this piece here, and then there's another little piece that goes on the side of the instrument panel. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So there we go. So that's what you get with the the Airscale set out of the box. So I'm going to get some pictures of this, get myself set up, and then we're going to look at getting some of these switches on. Okay, so we're ready to go. I've done two just to see what it's like, and I'm going to try something in a minute I've never done on the channel before. I'm going to zoom right in and see if I can show you what I'm doing. So for doing this, I was going to use these scissors. It's worth remembering, guys, I just bought these, and they actually cost about £3.50 with free delivery on eBay. I looked on Amazon, and they were like $9.99 or $7.95 or something, and they had some really bad reports. And these were actually New Way or something. New Way, was it? Where's the name on there? It says TK Plus on the side, but they're lovely. They're really sharp. And I saw some reports on Amazon about the ones they sell, and they were very jagged edges. And when you try to cut anything thin, it sort of just grabbed it and ripped it to pieces rather than actually cutting it. So these were £3.50, I ordered them on, I think it was Tuesday or Monday even, at like sort of 3 in the afternoon. Tuesday morning's post, they were here. Less than 24 hours. Unbelievable. Fantastic. So highly recommended. But they're not really a lot of use for this. Because one of the biggest problems, as I said, we're having is getting in to take it, because I want to use this second row. There's two, the second and the third, the third and fourth row. I want to use those on this upper panel. So getting in between is quite difficult. But what I'm realising, if I get in with the tweezers, I can just snap them off. So these are the Anyz tweezers. Where's the packet gone? Here it is. I would thoroughly recommend these to anyone. Super precision tweezers from Anyz. They are the best tweezers I've ever had. They don't do this, which is what all the cheap tweezers do. They don't flick your parts across the room. They're really, really nice. They're extremely sharp, very, very fine. So what I'm going to try and do now, I've got some ultra glue in here on an upturned Tamiya jar. So what I'm doing is snapping these off, dipping them in the glue, putting them in there. And I'm going to try and do it on camera. So here we go. I'm going to zoom you in. You can see I've got an X marked on the paper here, so I can see where I need to do it. I'm going to zoom you in. I'm going to see if I can show you how to do this. I'm going to get my magnifier there so I can see what I'm doing, and let's see if I can make this work. I don't know how some people do this when they're really close up. I think they're working around the camera, but let's see what happens. Right, so all I'm going to do is come in with the tweezers, and I'm going to grab the shank. I'm not going to grab the actual knob at the top. I'm just going to pull that over, and it should, there you go, it's snapped off. And then what I can do is take that and move the tweezers up so we're at the top, holding the actual switch. Hang on a minute. It's always the same when the bloody camera's on, it plays up. There we go. So now we're holding the actual switch. So I can just take this, dip it in the glue, just get a drop of glue on there. I'm just going to, it's like too much in there because I don't want to go pushing it up around the hole. And I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to slide this into that hole, just like so. Push it in, and that is in, just like that. Make sure it's nice and straight, and then I think we can see we've got 3 switches there across the top, and I think we can see they look lovely. So I'm going to carry on and do the rest off camera because it's crazy trying to show you. It's obvious what I'm doing. And then, as I say, I'm working from the top left down. So I'm using, not that it matters, I'm using these, which are the next shortest length. And sorry, you got the long ones, and you got these. So I'm using these in the top, and I'll use these down the side. And this panel here, we use all the long ones. So further away, the longer they are. That's what I'm going to do. So if you're really fussy and you want long ones enough, you have to get 2 sets. You can actually, from Anyz, if you've got a 3D printer or a resin printer, you can buy the program and you can make as many as you want then. So there we go. So I'm going to carry on off camera. I will see you back in about 18 hours. Well then guys, we are done. That only took about an hour and a half. I couldn't believe it. I thought it would have taken much longer than that, but I will show you in a minute. So we're going to call that a day for this video, because I'm not going to go through painting the cockpit and everything again. And this is, remember, this is cockpit number 3, and this is all about the Airscale set and the Anyz stuff. So basically the Airscale set, as we've said before, it's throttle quadrants, it's the seat, and it's the instrument panel, and that's that. If you want all the internal sidewall detail as well, I think the only option at the moment is Edward, which you've seen me have the set, and you will see me add to the model now we push forward. So yeah, we can actually now push forward. We've done cockpit number 3, so now I've got to go on and get the detail painting done, and then I'm going to do another video covering the seat belts and everything. We'll do the HGW seat belts for it. Remember, we've got the early seat there, which I'm not using, but we're going to use those HGW seat belts from ASK. If you want to do an early one, I think this is your only option. So there we go, and you may determine that, you know, your early one is, I don't know when the crossover is, but I think some earlier aircraft probably had the later seat fitted anyway. So you can see it there. Don't worry, I'm not going to tease you for too long. It does look, the seat's not glued in. it does look very, very nice, even if I say so myself. I will definitely be doing this again because, in fact, I'm going to get something to hold it with. I'm definitely going to be doing this again because it is so impressive. I like those 3D printed ones I talked about just now. I think this is far superior. When you actually look at this, you know, you can see there's the glass on the lenses all nice and flat, as I keep saying. And then you've got all those toggle switches on here. We've got the missile cover buttons. In hindsight, if I did it, well, I will be doing another one of these. I'll be doing the J. I would use the 48th scale missile cover switches. A couple of plunging switches. So what have we used on there? We've got the, I didn't use any 48th toggle switches. All the toggle switches I used were 32nd. So that's AN028. Okay, so we've got the smaller ones on this side, we've got the long ones here, and then we've got the medium ones up there. So it's sort of a bit of a mix-up. And then the red ones you can see there, they are the missile covers, and they're again 32nd scale. The 48th is slightly smaller. As I say, in hindsight, I think I would use the 48th because they're slightly smaller. But then when you went down in that cockpit down there, you want it to sort of jump out, so it may work quite well. It's hard to believe that that one up there is the same size as those four down there. You know, it looks so much smaller when it's on its own. Then the red buttons you can see there, they're from the World War II set in 1/32. No, sorry, they're 1/48. So you can see we've got some little knobs. You can see all the ones you get on there. And what I've used is, I think it's those and those. For these are like push-pull knobs, I think, here. So that's them. And then if you look around here, you can see we've got some switches. You can see some switches. They're part of the dial and knob set in 32nd scale. Okay, so that's those. And at the top here, you can see we've got a couple of silver sort of, buttons. Unfortunately, Tom doesn't make them. I'm gonna email him and suggest that he starts doing a sort of World War II set. But those up there are kind of a lot more dog-eared. There's a good picture of them here somewhere. There they are. There's one there. You can see it's kind of quite dog-eared, that one there. It sort of hangs down quite a long way, and Tom doesn't do those, and I'm going to suggest that he does, because they'd also be good on 32nd, 35th scale Jeeps, because of course, and all the American stuff, they've all got those buttons on, the knobs like that on them. So that'll be really handy. So I've just used those for now. If he brings them out and I've still got the cockpit apart, I can fit them, but we shall see. And then again, we've got a couple of knobs over here. So all in all, I'm really, really chuffed with how that's come out, and I think it looks absolutely bloody stunning. Now, I'm not going to do any washes or anything on it yet. That's not what this video is about. But what I'll do is I'll get some photographs up, put them up at the end. You'll have had the photographs, or you'll have the photographs of the panel without any toggle switches in. But now when you look down in there, you can see it with the toggle switches in. And boy oh boy, what a difference. I can't get the light to show it off properly, but isn't it gorgeous, eh? Lovely. I'm going to send Peter a picture of this. I think he'd be quite impressed with that. The combination of Anyz and Airscale works very, very well. So there we go. Right. So we'll call that a day. That's been about 50 minutes, hasn't it? So that's been cockpit part 3. So now, at last, we can finally bloody push on forward and start building the model instead of just keep going back. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry if you've been bored to tears, but that's been par for the course with doing this sort of build 3 times. But now I'm just going to push forward. There'll be no more sort of this is how the kit looks. Or I may do a little bit of that with the bomb bay and undercarriage bays, but I'm certainly not going to be building them up and painting them and then taking them apart again and everything like I've done with this. But I thought, you know, I thought Neil deserves me to show you how it looks out of the box. And then I bought the Edwards set. They didn't give it to me, but I thought, you know, they deserve me to show off how it looks with the Edwards set in it. And certainly Peter, with all the stuff he sends me, I think he deserves to see this. And again with Tom, the amount of stuff he sends me from Anyz. So we've got a nice combination there. So it's really, really nice to bring it all together. Just have another little final look before we go to photographs. And you can see there, You can see those toggle switches all lined up. In hindsight, I might have used something slightly shorter, but as I say, you want it when it's down in the depths like that, you want it to sort of pop out so that it looks big and busy. Anyway, next I got to do is detail paint and everything, which I'm not going to cover in here. So I shall see you all soon for, I guess it's going to be part 5, isn't it? When we push forward. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe. If you've liked the video, hit the thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.